Hey guys, this vlog is a bit of a mixture. It's about me dealing with the rising river conditions and all the frost that has just hit recently. Okay, so I woke up this morning and the river levels have definitely risen during the night. They seem to have gone up like a lot, so I really need to keep an eye on things, I think. I heard some of the other boaters talking about the fact that there's a lot of water coming down from Oxford, so it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Fingers crossed, eh? So I tried something a little bit more challenging than normal this morning. The river is very up at the moment, there's quite a strong flow, but I realised that I needed to get water, and I usually sort of canoe to get water. I actually made a video about that, and so I thought I would do that again today, and obviously it was quite a lot harder work going upstream against the flow, but now I'm going downstream and with the flow it's not as bad. I think it looked far worse than it was going to be. Maybe in a way it's harder to control bigger boats when the river is really swollen, because I guess a little boat just kind of skims across the top of it, whereas a bigger boat cuts through much more. A couple of tips for people that do want to canoe when the river is quite up. I found that it's easier to go upstream around the edges near the banks. The flow seems to be slightly reduced around the edges, whereas the majority of the strong flow seems to be flowing down the middle of the river, so that might help somebody out at some point if they're having to go upstream. I'm actually just currently floating down because the flow is so strong, and I'm sort of floating sideways, which is a bit weird, but yeah, so I just thought I'd share that all with you. Cool. Okay, so my wood supplies are getting pretty low at the moment, but luckily a friend of mine, Dave, another boater, said that I can go over and grab some wood off his pile if I was getting desperate, so I'm gonna try and attempt to cross the river, because it's in quite full flow at the moment, in my canoe, and go and grab some wood. So see how this goes. Well, at least the sun's out, but I have noticed something, that there's water that's obviously collected in my canoe, and it's sort of frozen, but there is still some water, so there's kind of a massive frozen lump of ice in my canoe. It's crazy. That's a pretty thick bit of ice. So after waking up yesterday morning to the river levels having risen quite a lot, I woke up this morning and everything was frozen, which was quite a surprise. Apparently it got down to -5 last night. I woke up and had some frozen insides of some of my portholes, which is not ideal, but I've gradually begun to thaw the boat out using the fire and my radiators. So yeah, another cold day on the boat, I think. It's -4 at the moment, and that's like, it's daytime and it's -4, so this is probably the coldest it's been so far. Can you hear the church bells in the background? Oh yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting challenge, it being this cold. You need a lot of wood, hence all the wood I'm carrying back to the boat at the moment. I'm going to sit in front of a nice cosy fire and just enjoy snuggling down, because that's the best thing to do. It's probably the only thing you can do when it's this cold, really. So I've been thinking recently a lot about a question that I get asked, which is why do I live on a narrowboat? I've come up with a few reasons. A really important one is being close to nature. And I've always liked being outside. I've always liked going for walks in forests, going hiking and things like that. But when you live on a narrowboat, you're kind of living in nature. Well, you're literally floating on the water, and nature seems a lot more immediate. It is just right there outside your porthole. Sometimes like a swan or something, you know, pecking on your window or whatever. So nature is very close by, and I think I absolutely love that aspect of it. Obviously, there are ups and downs to that. It also means that you're at the mercy of nature a lot more than you are when you're in a house, I think. That's definitely something to think about, I guess. Something else is the kind of slight sense of going back to simpler living that maybe people experienced centuries ago, getting wood for my fire and things like that. You become very resource aware. You're always thinking about how much water you're using, you know, how much electricity you're using. And I guess it makes you a bit more conscious about your use of those resources, whereas maybe when I've lived in a house in the past, I've taken those kind of things for granted, and I've just always thought, oh, there'll always be electricity, there'll always be gas, there'll always be water. You know, you pay the bills in a house, you don't even think about it, and you turn the tap and there's water there, and you turn your central heating up, and you know the radiators come on, you get hot water. Having built the boat and seeing exactly how all those things work, and then living on the boat as well, you just have a closer relationship to your use of those resources. Probably the final one, you get to move your home. You can move your home around, and I guess people that like live in vans and stuff like that have a similar thing. And you know, there is a part of the van life that does appeal to me, and I have actually owned a camper van once. I'll put a picture of it up now. Yeah, she was called Buttercup, and she was beautiful. Actually, weirdly, she was my first car. I absolutely loved that camper van. In the end, I had to get rid of it because all the touring I was doing with my band, it basically ended up kind of wrecking her a little bit. You know, they're not really designed to be touring vehicles. They're more sort of leisure vehicles. But anyway, I digress. So, van life is something I have experienced, and maybe one day again, I'll get another camper van. And so that's something that is very similar to boat life in that you can take your home with you. You can go to different places, and you have all your familiar things around you, yet you look out the window and it's different because you're in a different place. I mean, obviously not everybody builds their own narrowboat, but the extra thing I guess would be because I built my narrowboat, I've built it exactly how I want it, and that's the first time that's happened in my life, really. Everywhere else I've lived, I've rented. It's very rare that you're allowed to change things in rented accommodation, so you basically have to live with what the landlord wanted that place to look like. Here I got to create my entire space exactly how I wanted it, and it is quite eccentric and quite quirky, but that's just a reflection of me, and there is something very homely about creating a space that is part of you, really. So I guess that's my final thing about why I live on a narrowboat. I'll probably think of more after this, but you know, maybe I'll make another video. Hey guys, so that video was a little bit different. It was a little bit more old school, like how I used to make the videos right at the start of doing my vlog, mixed up with like kind of me answering questions. So I tried to sort of mix the formats together. So let me know what you thought about that. I'm always trying different ideas, and I'd love to know what you guys think of the videos, which ones you prefer, which ones you want me to do more of. A lot of stuff has happened. The river rising, that took me by surprise. Then all of a sudden it getting really frosty. Then it's suddenly getting sunny again. I mean, we've had the ultimate British weather. Quite interesting living through that on the boat, and I've enjoyed sharing that with you guys. Thank you once again, as always, for supporting the channel. It means everything to me. If you haven't already, you know, the usual thing, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again in a couple of weeks. Bye bye.